Okay guys, so the very first thing that we're gonna need, as you can see that I have included an external library. Now unfortunately this library is not included by default into your Arduino environment, so what we need to do is we have to download it. This is where you can download it. I'll pass the link in the video. You simply come here, clone or download, and download the whole thing. Now once you have, all that you need to do is come to Switch and add file. You have to go wherever that thing is located. In my recent places, since I have one, this is where it's located, and you have to include these two files, the ADA fruits etch and this guy right here, and that's all you need to do in terms of the external library. So the very first thing we're gonna do is to include the library itself, and the second thing is we're gonna have an instance. So what this library does, it can provide me with an instance of the barometric pressure that I'm actually using, which is very interesting because it makes the reading so much easier. And I name it BMP. Now on starts, you have to start obviously the serial communication with the default speed, and then you have to start also your barometric barometer. So I have to say dot begin. Now here's what's gonna happen. On loop, I'm gonna define a data, and it's going to equal dot BMP dot read pressure. It's as simple as this. All that you need to do is you have to read the pressure, and finally we're just gonna be printing. I'm gonna be seeing what these datas are and how do we make sense of this data before we send them to Unity. So let me just hook my Arduino and we're gonna be checking the data. Okay, let's upload our code. Okay, and yes, it's done uploading. Yes. So now let's see. Okay, so as you guys can see, the good news is that the readings are correct. You are getting readings now. Let me see if I apply pressure. Yes. However, the bad news is that we cannot make sense of this data. It doesn't make any sense. It's way too big. There's jumping numbers, and they're numbers that don't change. So one thing that you need to do is, how do we make sense? If you guys notice, the 9 on the left actually never changed, even when I change the pressure, so I can just simply get rid of it. Okay, so let's actually do this. Can I get rid of get into this guy? So how do I get rid of it? It's simple. I just say I want the data to equal, actually minus equals. Minus equals means that I want the data to equal data minus a given value, which is, I think it was 90,000. And now let's upload and see how's it different. Okay, done uploading. Okay, interesting. So this number actually makes more sense, and most importantly, we did not affect the readings. So now as I click yes, there is a change in my value. Now the next step that I want to do is I can either get rid of the last right number or the last two numbers. The reason why is because as you look at them, they're way too crazy. They're too sensitive. They keep jumping back and forth. So I'm not sure how much information that's going to provide for us. So how do I get rid of them? It's actually very simple. All I need to do is simply say that I want the data to, this is division equals 100. So that by this I can divide or get rid of the last two numbers. So I would end up with a 2-digit number, and that is very, very interesting. But the most important part, that it has to be expressive. So let's just see. Done uploading. Interesting. So I'm getting 10s. Now, if I was to click on this, I would have a change in my reading. But here's one, just last thing that we're gonna do. If you guys can see that this 10 is going to be the resting pressure. That's when I'm not clicking. Wouldn't it be interesting if I was to make it a 0? So that the data would actually make much more sense. So how do I do this? First of all, let me just get rid of this. I just have to simply remove it. I can't obviously say that I want the data minus 10 because this 10 is actually located further. So I have to add it here. Just 1 by this and upload the code. This is going to be represent the 10 of mine because I have removed by 100 this one. I removed these two guys. So this would get rid of my 10 and produce me 0 resting state. As you can see, that's it. Now let me see when I click. Yes, I'm getting these values. Now, I don't know if you guys noticed, there's a -1. The -1 is kind of like a negative pressure, because when you click, so how do I make it not affect my readings? I don't want to be sending negative values into my Arduino. So one thing that I can do is, I can say if the data is greater or equal to 0 actually, then send me the data. Otherwise, don't send it. I can clamp it in Unity, or I can simply make a delay in data readings. And I actually gonna do both. So here's the thing, I'm gonna say if now my process data, which I've done, is actually greater and or equal to 0, then I want you to do the following. Take the serial, but we're not going to be printing it, we're going to be writing it, because that's how we send bytes. I'm going to say serial.write instead of write. Now, I think we're almost done, but I think we just have just one last step that we need to do. And that is to make a delay after I send the data. The thing is with the readings of the Arduino, is that once you have a data that is greater than 0, it's actually going to pick multiple datas before it returns back to 0. So what I do is that I actually make a delay. Let's just say about 20 or maybe 30. Maybe this is something that we're going to change later, but that's, I think, all that we need to do. So let's upload this. And yes, I think we are done from the Arduino code, and the next step is I'm going to be showing you how to make a very simple FlappyBird clone in Unity and control it from here.